this beautiful seva of reading the Mahagranth, the Shivpuran. We will continue the reading. We are going to be reading chapter 5, 6, 7 and 8 today of the Vidyeswarasamhita. Just to give a little background of what happened in chapters 3 and 4. Chapters 3 and 4 talked about the deliberation of the achievable and the means of achievement. So in the last two chapters, we saw that Shivpuran is the foremost of all the Purans, and this is where the trio is proclaimed. The trio meaning the Bhakti, which is piety, Jnana is wisdom, and Vairagya is non-attachment. And it also talks about who is the greatest of the greatest being and the older than any principles. And they say it's Lord Mahadeva. And this is Lord Mahadeva is from whom the worlds recede, from whom the entire universe evolves, which is Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh. And all the elements of our sense organs have evolved. And the Lord of the universe, Lord Shiva, can only be realized by supreme devotion. And devotion to Shiva we can only get by his grace. So it's both roll into each other. So grace is due to his devotion and devotion is due to Shiva's grace. So the achievable, what are we trying to achieve when we read Shivpuran? Why have we come to this earth? It's to get liberation, salvation, to reunite with our Lord Shiva and at his feet. So that is the achievable we are trying to get out of reading of Shivpuran. And it talks about how do we achieve this? How do we achieve the grace of our Lord and reunification with Lord Shiva? And the three means of achieving that is listening to the glory of Shiva, which is Shravan Karna unko, and glorifying him by means of words and songs and various forms of his names, taking his name, which is via Kirtan. And the third method is via deliberation in our mind and meditation, which is the Manan Karna. So these are the three ways. Vyasji at one point was sitting on the banks of Saraswati river, and he said to Sanat Kumara, who was flying in his aerial chariot, and he woke him up from his meditation and he said, what are you trying to do? And he says, after years of meditation, I have found the four virtues, which is love, wealth, salvation, and virtue itself. The four ways he has found: virtue, wealth, love, and salvation. But he says, I don't know how to achieve that salvation. So Sanat Kumara explains to him that the only way to achieve and reunify with your Lord and to be liberated is by Shravan, Kirtan, and Manan. Once we practice this on a daily basis, that's when we realize our Lord Shiva and we can realize him through this devotion. So that is what chapters 3 and 4 taught us, and now we'll proceed with the reading of chapters 5, 6, 7 and 8 today. Anil Gunjal uncle will read in English, and Ashwini Handa uncle will be reading in Hindi. So today we have Guruji's two uncles who will be doing the reading. Jai Guruji.
Jai Guruji. Shukrana Guruji for this wonderful seva, and please forgive me for my pronunciation of the Hindi words. Chapter 5, the greatest of the phallic emblem of Shiva. Sutta said, a person incompetent to perform the three rites of Shravana, etc., shall fix the phallic emblem or the image of Shiva and worship them every day. He can thus cross the ocean of worldly existence. As far as he can afford, the devotee shall make gifts of wealth too without deceiving others. He shall offer them to the phallic emblem or the image of Shiva. He must worship them constantly. The worship must be performed elaborately. Construction of platforms, ornamental portals, monasteries, temples, holy centers, etc. Offerings of cloth, scents, garlands, incense, lamps, with due piety, oblations of various cooked rice, pancakes, pies, etc., with side dishes. Umbrellas, fans, chowries, and all paraphernalia, everything shall be maintained in the worship of Shiva. In fact, all royal homage shall be paid. Circumambulation and obeisance with japas according to capacity shall be performed. All the different usual rites in worship, like invocation, shall be maintained with due devotion. A person who worships the phallic emblem or the image in this manner will attain salvation even without Shravana. Many noble men of yore have liberated solely by this simple worship. Sages said, everywhere the deities are worshipped only in their image. How is it that Shiva is worshipped both in the image and the phallus? Sutta said, O sages, this question is holy and wondrous. Here the speaker is Shiva himself and not any ordinary person. I shall tell you what Shiva himself had said and what I heard from my own preceptor. Shiva alone is glorified as Niskala, nameless and formless, since he is identical with Supreme Brahman. He is also Shakla, as he is embodied form. He is both Shakla and Niskala. It is his Niskala aspect that the linga is appropriate. In the Shakla aspect of worship of his embodied form is appropriate. Since he has the Shakla and Niskala aspects, he is worshipped both in the phallic and in the embodied form by people, and it is called the highest Brahma. Other deities, not being Brahma, have no Niskala aspect anywhere. Hence the deities are not worshipped in formless phallic symbols. The other deities are both non-Brahma and individual souls. In view of their being embodied alone, they are worshipped solely in the bodily form. Shakara and Brahmatva and others Jivata. This has been explained in the meaning of the Pravana Om, the assassins of Vedanta and Nikadashvara, when asked by Shakuntakarama, the intelligent son of Brahma, at the Mount Mandarana. Sant Kumara said, the embodied form alone is often observed in the worship of deities other than Shiva, but both the phallic and embodied forms are only seen in the worship of Shiva. Hence, O benevolent one, please tell me precisely, making me understand the truth. Nadis Keshvara said, it is impossible to answer this question without revealing the secret of Brahma. O sinless one, since you are poised, I shall tell you what Shiva himself said. Since Shiva has the bodiless aspects in virtue of his being the supreme Brahma, the Niskala Linga is conformity with the Vedic implication. It is used only in his worship. Since he has an embodied form as well, his embodied form is also worshipped and accepted by all people. According to the decision in the Vedas, the embodied form alone is to be used in the worship of other deities who are only individual souls embodied. Devas have only the embodied aspect in their manifestation. In sacred literature, both the phallic and embodied forms are mentioned for Shiva. Sanat Kumara said, O fortunate one, you have explained the worship of phallus and image distinctly for Shiva and other deities. Hence, O Lord of Yognis, I wish to hear the feature of the manifestation of the phallic aspects of Shiva. Nandini Kavara said, O dear one, out of love for you, I shall tell you the truth. Long ago, in the famous first Kapla, the noble souls Brahma and Vishnu fought each other. In order to eradicate their arrogance, Lord Parameshvara showed his unembodied Niskala form in the form of a column in their midst. He showed his phallic emblem separate, evolved out of the column with a desire to bless the worlds. From that time onwards, the divine phallus and the embodied images both were assigned to Shiva alone. The embodied form alone was assigned to deities other than Shiva. The different types of embodied forms of the different devas yield only enjoyments. In regard to Shiva, the phallic emblem and the embodied form together bestow auspicious enjoyment and salvation. Chapter 6. The journey to Kailasa of Devas, terrified by the use of the Pashupata weapon in the fight between Brahma and Vishnu, who vied with each other, maintaining that each of them is the Lord himself. Nandi Vara said, once long ago, O foremost young yogis, Vishnu was having his nap on his serpent couch. He was surrounded by the goddess of fortune and his attendees. Brahma, the foremost among the Vedic scholars, chanced to come there. He asked the lotus-eyed handsome Vishnu who was lying there, "Who are you lying here like a haughty person even after seeing me? Get up, O dear, and see who am your Lord. I have come here." Expiatory rites are ordained for that spiteful wretch who behaves like a haughty fool at the visit of an honorable elderly person. On hearing these words, Vishnu was angry, but assumed a calm exterior and said, "O dear, hail thee, welcome, please sit on this couch. How is it that thy face is agitated and thy eyes look curious?" Brahma said, "Dear Vishnu, know me to have come with the speed of time. I am to be greatly honored greatly, O dear one. I am the protector of the world, grandfather, your protector as well." Vishnu said, "O dear one, the whole universe is situated within me, but your way of thinking is like that of a thief. You are born of the lotus sprung from my navel region. You are my son. Your words are futile, therefore." Nandi Kaveshwara said, "Arguing with each other like this, saying that each is better than the other, and claiming to be the Lord, they got ready to fight like two foolish goats desirous of killing each other. The two heroic deities seated on their respective vehicles, the swan and the Garuda, fought together. The attendants of Brahma and Vishnu also came into clash. In the meantime, the different groups of devas moving about in aerial chariots came here to witness the wonderful fight. Witnessing from the heaven, they scattered flowers everywhere. The Garuda vehicle deity Vishnu became infuriated and discharged unbearable arrows and many kinds of weapons on the chest of Brahma. The infuriated Brahma also hurled many arrows of fierce fury and different kinds of weapons to Vishnu. The devas commented on this wondrous flight and were agitated much. Vishnu, in his great fury and mental agitation, breathed hard and discharged the Mahaswara weapon over Brahma. Annoyed at this, Brahma aimed the terrible Pasputa weapon at the chest of Vishnu. The weapon, rising high in the sky, blazing like 10,000 suns with thousands of terrible pointed spikes, roared awfully like a gust of wind. These two weapons of Brahma and Vishnu thus faced each other in a terrible clash. Such was the mutual fight between Brahma and Vishnu then, O dear. The devas, in their helpless agitation and vexation, talked among themselves as people do at the time of war between their monarchs. The three-pointed trident-bearing deity, the supreme Brahma, i.e. Shiva, is the cause of creation, maintenance, annihilation, concealment, and blessing. Without his collaboration, even a blade of grass cannot be split by any individual anywhere. Thinking thus in their fright, they desired to go to Shiva's abode and accordingly come to the summit of Kailasha where moon-crested God resided. On seeing the region of Parameshvara in the shape of Omkara, they bent their heads down in reverence and entered the palace. There they saw the supreme leader of the Devas brilliantly shining on the gem-set seat in the company of Uma on an altar in the middle of the council chamber. His right leg was kept over the knee of the left. His lotus-like hands were placed over the legs. His attendants were all around him. He had all good characteristic features. He was being fanned by the specialists in the art ladies of pointed attention. The Vedas were extolling him. The Lord was blessing everyone. On seeing the Lord thus, the Devas shed tears of joy. O dear one, the host of Devas knelt down, even from a great distance. The Lord, on seeing the Devas, beckoned them to him through his attendants. Then, causing the delight of the Devas, the crest jewel of Devas, i.e. Shiva, addressed them gravely with sweet, auspicious words. Chapter 7. Shiva manifesting himself as a column of fire in the battlefield. Ishvara said, "Dear children, hail to ye. I hope the universe and the race of deities under my sustkanti flourish in their respective duties. O gods, the fight between Brahma and Vishnu is already known to me. This agitation on your part is like a redundant speech. Thus the consort Amba consoled the concourse of Devas with honey-like speech sweetened with smile in the manner of appeasing children. In that very assembly, the Lord announced his desire to go to the battlefield of Hari and Brahma, and accordingly issued his directive to the 100 of commanders of his attendants. Different kinds of musical instruments were played to announce the start of the journey of the Lord. The commanders of the attendants were in readiness, fully beckoned in their ornaments and seated in their respective vehicles. The Lord consort of Ambika mounted the holy chariot shaped like Omkara from front to the back and embellished in 5 circle rings. He was accompanied by his son and Ganas, all Devas, Indra, and others followed. Honored suitably by the display of banners of various colors, fans, chariots, scattered flowers, music, dance, and the instrument players, and accompanied by great goddesses Parvati, Pushpati, Shiva, went to the battlefield with the whole army. On espying the battle, the Lord vanished in the firmament. The play of the music stopped, and the tumult of the Ganas subsided. There in the battlefield, Brahma and Akacharya, desires of killing each other, were waiting in the results of the Mahaveshwara and Pashputa weapons hurled by them. The flames emitted by the 2 weapons of Brahma and Vishnu burnt the 3 worlds. On seeing this imminent dissolution of the bodies, forms of Shiva assumed the terrific form of a huge column of fire in their midst. The 2 weapons of fiery flame, potentially enough to destroy the entire world, fell into the huge column of fire that manifested itself there instantaneously. Seeing that auspicious, wonderful phenomenon, the weapon, they asked each other, "What is this wonderful form? What is this column of fire that has risen up? Is it beyond the range of senses? We have to find out its top and bottom." Jointly decided like this, the 2 heroes, proud of their prowess, immediately set out in their quest. "Nothing will turn up if we are together." Saying this, Vishnu assumed the form of a boar and went in search of the root. Brahma, in the form of a swan, went in search for the top. Pressing through the netherworlds, they were going very far below. Vishnu could not see the root of this fiery column. Utterly exhausted, Vishnu, in the form of a boar, returned to the former battleground. "Dear one, your father Brahma, who went high up in the sky, saw a certain bunch of Ketalkli flowers of mysterious nature falling from above. On seeing the mutual fright of Brahma and Vishnu, Lord Shiva laughed. When his head shook, the Ketalkli flowers dropped down. Although it had been in their downward course for many years, neither its fragrance nor its luster had been diminished even a bit. The flower had been intended to bless them. Brahma said, O Lord of flowers, by whom have you been warned? Why do you fall? I have come here to seek out the top of the form of a swan. The flower replied, I am falling down from the middle of this column that is indestructible. It has taken me a long time, hence I do not see how you can see the top. Dear friend, therefore you must do as I desire. In the presence of Vishnu, you must say like this, Oh, the top of column has been seen by Brahma. I am the witness for the same. Saying this, he bowed to the Ketalkli flower again and again. Every falsehood is recommended in times of danger, so say the authoritative texts. Returning to the original place as seeing Vishnu there, utterly exhausted and lacking pleasure, Brahma danced with joy. Vishnu, in the manner of Enshu admitting his inability to a woman, told him the truth that he could not see the bottom. But Brahma told Vishnu like this, O Hari, the top of the column has been seen by me. The Ketalkli flower is my witness. The Ketalkli flower repeated the falsehood endorsing the words of Brahma in his presence. Hari, taking it to be true, made obeisance to Brahma. He worshipped Brahma with all the 16 means of service and homage. The Lord, taking up visible form in order to chastise Brahma, who practiced trickery, came out of the column of fire. On seeing the Lord, Vishnu stood up with his hands shaking with fear, caught hold of the Lord's feet. It is out of ignorance and delusion about you whose body is without being or an end, as we indulge in this quest prompted by our own desire. Hence, O sympathetic being, forgive us for our fault. In fact, it is not but another form of your divine sport. Ishvara said, O dear Hari, I am pleased with you because you strictly adhere to truth in spite of your desire to be a lord. Hence, among the general public, you will have a footing equal to mine. You will be honored too likewise. Therefore, you will be separated from me, having separate temple, installation of idols, festivals, and worship. Thus, formerly the Lord was delighted by the truthfulness of Hari and offered him a footing equal to his own, even as the assembly of the Devas was witnessing the same. Chapter 8. Shiva, forgiveness of Brahma. Nandini Vasvara said, Mahadev then created a wonderful person, Bhairava, from the middle of his brows to quell the pride of Brahma. The Bhairava knelt before the Lord in the battlefield and said, O Lord, what shall I do? Please give me your directives quickly. Dear, here is Brahma, the first deity of the universe. Worship him with your sharp-pointed, quick-moving sword. With one of his hands, he caught hold of the tuft of Brahma's fifth head that was guilty of hauntingly uttering a falsehood, and with the hands he fiercely shook his sword in order to cut it off. Your father trembled like a plantain tree in a whirlwind. With his ornaments scattered here and there, his cloth ruffled and loosened, the garland displaced, the upper cloth hanging loose, and the glossy tuft disheveled, and fell to the feet of Bhaiva. Meanwhile, the sympathetic iron desire of saving Brahma shed tears over the lotus feet of our Lord and said with palms joined in reverence, just like a child lisping words of entreaty to his father. Aikuta said, O Lord, it was you who gave him 5 heads as a special symbol long ago. Hence, please forgive him. His first guilt, please favor him. The Lord thus requested, relented, and in presence of all Devdas asked Bhairava to desist from punishing Brahma. Then the Lord turned to the deceitful Brahma, who bent down his neck and said, O Brahma, in order to extort honor from people, you assume the role of the Lord in a roguish manner. Hence you shall not be honored, nor shall you have your own temple or festival. Brahma said, O Lord, be pleased, O flourishing one. I consider this sparing of my head itself a great blessing and a boon. Obedience to thee, the Lord, the kingsman, the originator of the universe, the forbearing and forgiver of defects, the benevolent one, wielding the mountain as his bow. Ishvara said, O child, the whole universe will be ruined if it loses the fear of a king. Hence you met out punishment to the guilty and bear the burden of administering this universe. I shall grant you another boon, which is very difficult to get. In all domestic and public sacrifices, you will be the presiding deity. Even though a sacrifice is complete with all the ancillary rites and offerings of monetary gifts, it will be fruitless without you. Then the Lord turned to the deceitful Ketaka flower guilty of perjury and said, O you, Ketaka flower, you are roguish and deceitful. Go away from here. Therefore I have no desire to include you in my worship. When the Lord said thus, all the Devas shunned the very presence of the flower. Ketaka said, Obedience to thee, O Lord, your binding will mean that my very birth is fruitless. May the Lord be pleased to make it fruitful by forgiving my sin. Thy remembrance is reputed to quell all sins perpetrated consciously or unconsciously. Now that I have seen thee, how can the sin of utterly foolishly sully me? Thus entreated in the middle of the council, the Lord said, It is not proper for me to wear you. I am the Lord, and my words must stay true. My attendants, followers shall wear thee. Hence thy birth shall be fruitful. Of course, in the canopies over my idol, you can be used for decoration. The Lord thus blessed thee, the flower Ketaka, Brahma, and Vishnu. He shone in the assembly duly acknowledged by the Devas.
And now Ashwani Handa uncle will read the same passages in Hindi. Jai Guruji.
Shukrana Guruji for giving me an opportunity for reading Shivpuran in Hindi. Maybe I should say it in Hindi, right? So बहुत बहुत शुक्राना शिवपुराण पढ़ने का अवसर देने के लिए। अध्याय 5 से 7। भगवान शिव के लिंग एवं साकार विग्रह की पूजा के रहस्य तथा महत्व का वर्णन। सूत जी कहते हैं, शौनक, जो श्रवण, कीर्तन और मनन इन तीनों साधनों के अनुष्ठान में समर्थ हो, वह भगवान शंकर के लिंग एवं मूर्ति की स्थापना करके नित्य उसकी पूजा करे तो संसार सागर से पार हो सकता है। वंचना अथवा छल ना करते हुए अपनी शक्ति के अनुसार धन राशि ले जाए और उसे शिवलिंग अथवा शिव मूर्ति की सेवा के लिए अर्पित कर दे। साथ ही निरंतर उस लिंग एवं मूर्ति की पूजा भी करे। उसके लिए भक्ति भाव से मंडप, गोपुर, तीर्थ, मठ एवं क्षेत्र की स्थापना करे तथा उत्सव रचाए। वस्त्र, गंध, पुष्प, धूप, दीप तथा पुआ और शाक आदि व्यंजनों से युक्त भांति भांति के भक्ष्य भोजन अन्न नैवेद्य के रूप में समर्पित करे। छत्र, ध्वजा, व्यजन, चामर तथा अन्य अंगों सहित राजोपचार की भांति सब सामान भगवान शिव के लिंग एवं मूर्ति को चढ़ाए। प्रदक्षिणा, नमस्कार तथा यथाशक्ति जप करे। आवाहन से लेकर विसर्जन तक सारा कार्य प्रतिदिन भक्ति भाव से संपन्न करे। इस प्रकार शिवलिंग अथवा शिव मूर्ति में भगवान शंकर की पूजा करने वाला पुरुष श्रवणादि साधनों का अनुष्ठान ना करे तो भी भगवान शिव की प्रसन्नता से सिद्धि प्राप्त कर लेता है। पहले के बहुत से महात्मा पुरुष लिंग और शिव मूर्ति की पूजा करने मात्र से भवबंधन से मुक्त हो चुके हैं। ऋषियों ने पूछा, मूर्ति में ही सर्वत्र देवताओं की पूजा होती है, लिंग में नहीं, परंतु भगवान शिव की पूजा सब जगह मूर्ति में और लिंग में भी क्यों की जाती है? सूत जी ने कहा, मुनीश्वरों, तुम्हारा यह प्रश्न तो बड़ा ही पवित्र और अत्यंत अद्भुत है। इस विषय में महादेव जी ही वक्ता हो सकते हैं। दूसरा कोई पुरुष कभी और कहीं भी इसका प्रतिपादन नहीं कर सकता। इस प्रश्न के समाधान के लिए भगवान शिव ने जो कुछ कहा है और उसे मैंने गुरुजी के मुख से जिस प्रकार सुना है उसी तरह क्रमशः वर्णन करूंगा। एकमात्र भगवान शिव ही ब्रह्म रूप होने के कारण निष्कल निराकार कहे गए हैं। रूपवान होने के कारण उन्हें सकल भी कहा गया है, इसलिए वे सकल और निष्कल दोनों हैं। शिव के निष्कल निराकार होने के कारण ही उनकी पूजा का आधारभूत लिंग भी निराकार ही प्राप्त हुआ है, अर्थात शिवलिंग शिव के निराकार स्वरूप का प्रतीक है। इसी तरह शिव के सकल या साकार होने के कारण उनकी पूजा का आधारभूत विग्रह साकार प्राप्त होता है, अर्थात शिव का साकार विग्रह उनके साकार स्वरूप का प्रतीक होता है। सकल और असकल समस्त असंग आकार सहित साकार और अंग आकार से सर्वथा रहित निराकार रूप होने से ही वे ब्रह्म शब्द से कहे जाने वाले परमात्मा हैं। यही कारण है सब लोग लिंग निराकार और मूर्ति साकार दोनों में ही सदा भगवान शिव की पूजा करते हैं। शिव से भिन्न जो दूसरे दूसरे देवता हैं वे साक्षात ब्रह्म नहीं हैं, इसलिए कहीं भी उनके लिए निराकार लिंग नहीं उपलब्ध होता। पूर्व काल में बुद्धिमान ब्रह्मपुत्र सनत कुमार मुनि ने मंदराचल पर्वत नंदीकेश्वर से इसी प्रकार का प्रश्न किया था। सनत कुमार बोले, भगवान शिव से भिन्न जो देवता हैं उन सबकी पूजा के लिए सर्वत्र प्राय वेर मूर्ति मात्र ही अधिक संख्या में देखा और सुना जाता है। केवल भगवान शिव की पूजा में लिंग और वेर दोनों का उपयोग देखने में आता है। अतः कल्याणमय नंदीकेश्वर, इस विषय में जो तत्व की बात हो उसे मुझे इस प्रकार बताइए जिससे अच्छी तरह समझ में आ जाए। नंदीकेश्वर ने कहा, निष्पाप ब्रह्म कुमार, आपके इस प्रश्न का हम जैसे लोगों के द्वारा कोई उत्तर नहीं दिया जा सकता, क्योंकि यह गोपनीय विषय है और लिंग साक्षात ब्रह्म का प्रतीक है। तथापि आप शिव भक्त हैं, इसलिए इस विषय में भगवान शिव ने जो कुछ बताया है उसे ही आपके समक्ष कहता हूँ। भगवान शिव ब्रह्मस्व रूप और निष्कल निराकार हैं, इसलिए उन्हीं का पूजा में निष्कल लिंग का उपयोग होता है। संपूर्ण वेदों का यही मत है। सनत कुमार बोले, माँ भाग योगिंद्र, आपने भगवान शिव तथा दूसरे देवताओं के पूजन में लिंग और वेद के प्रचार का जो रहस्य विभाग पूर्वक बताया है वह यथार्थ है। इसलिए लिंग और वेद की आदि उत्पत्ति का जो उत्तम वृतांत है उसी को मैं इस समय सुनना चाहता हूँ। लिंग के प्राकाट्य का रहस्य सूचित करने वाला प्रसंग मुझे सुनाइए। इसके उत्तर में नंदिकेश्वर ने भगवान महादेव के निष्कल स्वरूप लिंग के आवाभिभाव का प्रसंग सुनाना आरंभ किया। उन्होंने ब्रह्मा तथा विष्णु के विवाद, देवताओं की व्याकुलता एवं चिंता, देवताओं का दिव्य कैलाश शिखर पर गमन, उनके द्वारा चंद्रशेखर महादेव का सत्वन, देवताओं से प्रेरित हुए महादेव जी का ब्रह्मा और विष्णु के विवाद स्थल में आगमन तथा दोनों के बीच में निष्कल आदि अंतरहित भीषण अग्नि स्तंभ के रूप में उनका आविर्भाव आदि प्रसंगों की कथा कही। तदंतर श्री ब्रह्मा और विष्णु दोनों के द्वारा उस ज्योतिर्मय स्तंभ की ऊंचाई और गहराई का था लेने की चेष्टा एवं केतकी पुष्प के शाप वरदान आदि के प्रसंग भी सुनाए। अध्याय 5 से 7 की समाप्ति। हिंदी बहुत शॉर्ट है।